our most beloved Pro-Chancellor, Sri Harshpati Singhania ji, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dheeraj Sanghi ji, distinguished dais, distinguished members of the Board of Management, distinguished invitees, young students, teachers, parents that I see in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. May I first of all say how humbled I feel to receive this honor. When you see the list of icons we have received this award, the presidents, the prime ministers, the Nobel laureates, I truly feel humble, and I must say how grateful I am for doing me the honor. I really accept this in all my humility. I also felt very touched when you talked about me as a member of the family. And I have been, by the way, a very proud member of the family for a number of years. And I'm especially honored to give this talk, paying my respect and tribute publicly to Harshankar Singhania ji. We had a special bond, I can tell you, very, very special bond. So if I may have the next slide, you can see a memorable occasion when we were together. You know what was the occasion? The occasion was the new National Leadership Awards that Harishankar ji had created. And these were given at the hands of the then President, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And you can see the Education Minister, Arjun Singh ji, also in the audience. And these awards, the very first ones, one was for industry, it went to Ratan Tata. The second was for social work, and it went to Ilaben Bhatt. And third one, I was lucky to get for science and technology. And I can assure you that it was Harishankar ji's love and affection for me because of which I got the first award. Because later on, I myself became a member of the selection committee, and we chose people who were 10 times better than me. I can assure you, this is not humility, this is true, including Professor Sena Rao, Bharat Ratna, whom we consider as not just Guru, but Super Guru. So I must place this on record. I must also narrate a couple of other instances where we came through. It was just mentioned that he was the president of International Chamber of Commerce. And I was the director of NCL at the time. He was the president, and I remember getting an invitation from him to represent India in a big summit that was going to be held in Hong Kong. And there was going to be a panel discussion among the leaders of science and technology. For example, Minister of Science and Technology, Mr. Habibi, who later on became the president of Indonesia, was one of them. The Minister of Science and Technology of China was one of them. And he did me the honor to represent India at the time. I will never forget that. These were very early days. As director of NCL, I was very young at that time. Later on, I remember when Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and Chancellor Kohl of Germany created what was called as an Indo-German Consultative Committee. And both of us served on that committee. There were different representatives. I came from science and technology, he came from industry, and there were others. And it was very interesting. One meeting used to be held in Delhi, one meeting in Bonn. And there, the deliberations of this committee, which happened very, very frankly, just a 2-page document will go only to the Prime Minister and to the Chancellor, nobody else. And I remember his wisdom showing up in those meetings. And I must also gratefully acknowledge when I became the DG of CSR, we have the CSR Society, and the Prime Minister is the chairman, president of that. And I remember Hari Shankarji serving on the society and guiding us on the way forward for CSR. And I can go on and on and on, but most important was the personal bondage that we had. The number of visits that I had to your home and the hospitality that I have enjoyed, I can never forget. And I will never forget that whenever I left, Harishankarji was such a human being. He would come himself outside, to see me out. Some of these memories, they are just bouncing over as I think about him. So thank you very much. Let me talk about the power of exponential, because the word exponential I'll be using again and again. Now, what you see here is when you go linearly, you go almost flat, and then there is a point of takeoff where you become exponential. You start doubling up, let us say, rather than moving linearly, and you can see the kind of growth that you have. So I like what Peter Diamandis had shown in his book on the exponential, where he says if you take 30 linear places, 1 meter each, you will find that you will reach 30 meters. 1 meter, then 1 meter, then 1 meter, etc. But if you take 30 exponential steps, that means you keep on doubling up. The first step is 1 meter, the second is double of that, 2 meters, the third is double of that, 4 meters, etc. And you can have 26 trips around the world if you do that. So that is the difference between linear and the exponential. What I would like to see for our beloved nation is this exponential growth, not linear growth, so as to say. And the power of that resides in the minds of the leaders. How can you do exponential thinking about that? Because most of the time it's a defensive linear thinking just to be resilient. How do we move out of that? That is the subject. Now, this book, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, which many of you have had, Ratan Tata writes there, this captivating book, through its impressive, assured innovation framework, shows the way forward to achieving this daunting task must read. And you just saw Ratan Tata in the previous slide receiving the award. But this book also got the Best Business Book of the Year award, and now it has become Best National Seller. But its origin comes in the Reliance Innovation Council. I've been on the board of Reliance for almost 17 years. And I remember it was Mukesh Ambani's wisdom to create this Reliance Innovation Council. And you can see the members here, like John Marilyn, the Nobel Laureate, Bob Grubbs, the Nobel Laureate, George Whitesides, for example, from Harvard. We talk about Saraswati at one end and Lakshmi at the other end. It's a terrific combination. In terms of Saraswati, he has the highest citation in the word H index, as we call it, 200 plus. But at the same time, the valuation of his startup that he has created is $30+ billion. Saraswati and Lakshmi going together. And it's the same thing for sort of others. C.K. Prahlad was, by the way, a member, but he passed away. So Mukesh and I used to have these discussions on sort of the way forward and what we should do. And I remember this Reliance Innovation Leadership Center, when he created, the idea was growth is life. And then we said innovation must become a way of life, not just for R&D people, for everyone. Okay. And then if you combine that, you see innovation-led growth. But that growth, as you can see in the case of Reliance, has been exponential. And you can't have exponential growth if you don't have disruptive innovation, if you don't have game-changing innovation. So that was the paradigm shift. So once I remember he and I were talking, and he said, "Doc, we must leapfrog." So I asked him, "Do you know why the frog leaps?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "The frog leaps because he's afraid of the predator. He's afraid of the enemy and jumps a few feet and again a few feet." Do we want to do that? Or do you want to pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of our aspiration. And you can cross continents, basically. He loved that, and we created what is called as uh, sort of a leadership in terms of getting, let's say, top 25, 30 young people who can think beyond the realms of possibility, making impossible possible. What did we do? We had some, overall, over a period of time, we had 100 innovation leaders, finally, who will pole vault and not just leapfrog. They were given massive opportunity through grace initiative. And what we would do is that set unreasonable goals. Because reasonable goals give you only reasonable results. Unreasonable goals. Challenge the conventional wisdom. Get ordinary people to do extraordinary things. You know, it is very easy to get extraordinary people to do extraordinary things. Can we get ordinary people to do extraordinary things? That requires leadership. Suffer from divine discontent. No matter what we achieve, you can always do better. And convert adversity into opportunity. But the most important part was to create exponential value. Now, if you see this pole vaulting analogy that I gave, if you look at, for example, the mobile data consumption in terms of millions of GB per month, this is where we were. And then we pole vaulted to number 1 position. In fact, India pole vaulted from 155th position to number 1 position within 1 year of February 17. We did not leapfrog from 155 to 100. We pole vaulted and we continue to be number 1. That's the idea. Now, how did we do that? Pole vaulting leads to radical transformation. That's the subtitle of my book, by the way. Leapfrogging to pole vaulting, creating the magic of radical yet sustainable transformation. Radical yet sustainable transformation. And you can see that. If you see before 4G multiphone was $300, became $23. If you look at the data per GB cost from $5 to 0.01 cent. If you look at the voice expenditure from $1.6 per minute, it became 0, cheapest in the world. The other important point was to look at pole vaulting to reach 50 million users. Just now, Harshpati Singhania ji talked about speed and scale. Just look at the speed. Telephone took 50 years. Mobile took 12 years. YouTube took 4 years. Facebook took 3 years. And if you see Twitter, it took 2 years. These used to be classic examples on how to scale rapidly with speed. But if you see Reliance Jio, 83 days. That happens to, of course, now ChatGPT has broken that record. That's a different matter altogether. The issue is, you will say, oh my God, he's a rich person, deep pockets, so you can do that easily. Sorry. If you read the book, you will find that it is not the power of deep pockets, but power of deep innovation, which made it possible. For example, the first to the word, 100% IP, and infinitely scalable, the network, which was scaled very rapidly to trillion GB per month. If you look at ideas from other section, by the way, we were just discussing about picking up ideas from other sectors and using them. You can see that. For example, Aadhaar-based sign-up, 100% paperless activation in 15 minutes. Not 3-4 days, but 15 minutes. You look at the geo centers, which were inspired by the post offices. Micropiling used to dig 17 feet in 6 hours with smaller footprint than the conventional towers. Or if you look at the horizontal direction of directional drilling for micro-trenching technology that was used in other fields being used here. That's what I mean, taking ideas from others, etc. 2 days to set up a tower, including the connecting fiber power supply. Then there was a delivery innovation, which was SIM cards that were home delivered. with the help of 10,000 agents on motorbikes, and cost structure innovation, the biometric machines. The point I'm trying to make is that when we talk about technological innovation, that is just one part. There is what is called as a business model innovation, system delivery innovation, workflow innovation, etc., etc. And you have to combine that. So that is a hallmark of exponential entrepreneurship, exponential thinking. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, what are the characteristics and impact of exponential innovation? I think the first is that such innovation does not lead to renovation. Renovation is 10% change. Okay? It leads to revolution. As you can see in Digital India, when we talk about we achieved the top position, it is a revolution. Would not have been possible without it. The second is new to the world, not just to company or country. We are very proud of saying this is the first time we have done it in Pune, in Jaipur, etc. First, not to even India, to the world. The third is unprecedented cost performance features, not just marginal cost or feature improvement. That means we are not talking about 10%. We are talking about 10x. And 10x better, but 10x cheaper. Can we achieve that? And entirely new products and services, not just tinkering with existing ones. And last and most important, next practice, not best practice. Something that I was mentioning on the way. I'm not a great believer in best practice, because best practice is what you follow that others are doing. DuPont, this, that, and the other. No. We create the next practice which the others will follow. Now you would say, come on, is it at all possible? I'll give you some examples in order to show how that is. In my mother's name, I have created Anjani Malshekar Inclusive Innovation Award. You have been told about the conditions under which I was born, and I always tell young students, where you are born, to whom you are born, under what conditions you are born, doesn't matter. Your destiny is in your own hands. So we were born in extreme poverty, and I remember I had this habit of carrying always some cash, like I'm carrying now. And I was a DJ of CSR, and I remember every weekend coming and my being in the laboratory. And while going, whatever money I had, I would give it to her. And this I did for 11.5 years. We never asked her what she did with the money. But when she passed away, my daughter was trying to adjust her saris and all that money she had kept there. And she said, don't forget about our roots. Do something for those who do science for the poor. And that is where I created Anjani Malshekar Foundation, and we created this award. And there we said, making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor is very difficult. So we give this award to them and also to the best practice. I'll give you some samples, because this is also a part of experiential entrepreneurship. In civil society, those of you who are interested, you can see a cover page article on Anjani Malshekar. This is running for 12 years now. So you can see here, rupees 10 for a hemoglobin test, rupees 5 for an ECG test, $1 for a breast cancer screening. Looks impossible, but this has all happened. Look at this non-invasive hemoglobin test by Mishkin Ingawale. What is the best practice? What is the next practice? Best practice is invasive with needles. This is with non-invasive. You don't take the blood. Best practice is cost per test is say 150, 200 rupees. This is just 10 rupees. Now, he created the best practice by creating this Touch HB, which had all this high technology. Photoplethysmography, spectrophotometry, advanced software. So that became the best practice. But what you have to do is that you have to displace your best practice by creating the next practice again. So he created the next practice, but he replaced it by creating something which is sensational. He created a camera which captures the picture of conjunctiva and uses the method of reflections photometry to find the hemoglobin content. Imagine the transformative power of this. Women die in villages by anemia because the low hemoglobin content, subcritical, is not known. Why? Because they don't give blood. Okay? Okay, don't take the blood. And you can use what he has developed, Touch HB, where you have to use your finger and so on and so forth. But easier than that, you place a camera. In a village, you keep 4 cameras, you have to just go and look, and there has to be an expert who will sort of take the reading and tell you what it is. It is transformative, completely transformative. Look at the ECG. When you take ECG, what do? The best practice is you go lie down, and then the nurse comes, puts a 12 lead. From that, the best practice is something. I forgot to bring it, otherwise I would have shown it to you. It's a device of that sort, even smaller than that. You can carry it in pocket. It is practically sort of a portable ECG. And all that you have to do is that you put your thumbs here for 15 seconds. Then there's a sensor. This is your heart. 15, 15, 15 seconds. Below the heart, 15, 15, 15 seconds. And you get an accurate 12 lead ECG. And you can see that this was the first version that he created. And this is the second version. And I'm very happy to tell you that this is being sold now in 8 countries, including Australia and USA. 2.5 lakh devices have been sold. They are all US certified, etc. Can you imagine what transformation it can bring in rural villages? As long as the government gives the connectivity that has been promised, everyone has that, then an old woman who has a pain in the heart and needs ECG doesn't have to be put in a bullock cart or a sort of a scooter or a motorcycle. Right there, within 3 minutes, she can get the advantage of the best. That is exponential thinking. Cancer, for example, Mir Shah created this device, again completely non-invasive, which is ultra-portable, accurate, minimal training, wireless, cloud connected, and you get instant result. You don't have to go through painful mammography. The cost per test is just $1. And they have signed up with GE Healthcare now, and they are going to 25 countries, trying to cover 500 million women. They have not reached there. They are not even 5 million at the moment. That doesn't matter. But you can see this is just sort of $1. Completely non-invasive, high technology sort of next practice. And the last one I like to show is last year's award. It went to something called Shwasa. So what is the best practice? Spirometer. You want to find out what is the health of your lung. You go there and use a spirometer that you see on your left. And the equipment cost is ₹1 lakh. Assessment 1,500 because you require some technicians. And you take 90 minutes. As against that, they have an AI-inspired software which is embedded in your smartphone, and all that you do is to cuff into it. That's all. And you can see the equipment cost will be 0 because you already have the phone. The assessment cost will be just ₹1 or so, and the results are absolutely instant. That is radical transformation. And this is going places now. Number of states are going to use it for tuberculosis in particular, because it can tell you whether you have COVID or TB or asthma and so on and so forth. So in the tuberculosis mission, now this is sort of getting it. Can you see what difference this is going to make? So what I'm talking about are disruptive technologies where you just look and you know your hemoglobin. You just cough and you know whether you have TB or not. And they're all coming from young Indians, by the way, who are not worried about making money, who just want to do social good, all right? So that is a good part of what is happening. The second part of my talk is that somebody asked me, you're talking about pole vaulting. How do you make sure that when you pole vault, you don't break your back? So therefore, chapter 3 of the book actually shows a framework which is called Assured Framework. What is that? The first is, it has to be affordable. If it is affordable, it becomes scalable. Third is, it has to be sustainable. All right? Fourth, universal, user-friendly customer. For him, it must be very easy to use. Next, you have to be resilient. Next is, of course, excellence in terms of technology. I showed to you how high technology is used. And last one is distinctive, not me too, not copied, with strong IP. Now, this framework actually I started using when our Prime Minister uh, talked about Swachh Bharat. And at that time, there was the challenge of getting the best technologies in drinking water and sanitation. And I became the chairman of the standing committee. And how do you select those technologies? So we said, let us use this framework, basically, which is quantitative or semi-quantitative. All right, and that was a tough screen to basically pass. We started using that. And then, of course, the sustainable part was very important because it has to be economical. All right, you can't depend upon government subsidies. Government goes, subsidies go. So it has to be a robust business model. Second, it has to be meeting the environmental requirements. If anything is not green, it will not work. Finally, society must accept it. If society doesn't accept it, goes and can change with policy. Regulations, for example, regulation change, and you can certainly go down the drain. And actually, in the book, you will find these companies. They are all successful companies, by the way, but they don't exist today because they failed to meet the assured framework. Like, for example, Napster. Napster was one where you can download the music free, and there were 60 million customers. Do they exist today? No. Because the Society of Musicians said, you can't download my music free. Gone. So they did not remain sustainable from the assured part. BlackBerry. Many of the sort of older variants like me would know what BlackBerry was, right? They were great. But they did not remain distinctive. They were still stuck to their keyboard, by the way, because they looked at it as a business machine and it didn't work. And you can see they don't exist. So this assured framework has become very, very popular. And you can see this Jio, for example. Is it affordable? Yes. 4 rupees per GB and voice free. Is it scalable? Yes. Almost close to 500 million customers. Is it sustainable? Yes. It is making profits. Is it universal? Yes. Look at those two ladies coming from different strata, both using it. Is it rapid? Yes. I showed to you how fast they moved. Is it excellence? Yes. 4G LTE was given, by the way, not 2G, not 3G. And is it distinctive? Yes. You can see that. But on the other hand, you can see even great companies like Google Glass. It was distinctive, it was excellent, but it was not affordable, very expensive. And therefore, it did not scale. It was not sustainable because society did not accept it. When you are wearing a Google Glass and I'm talking to you, you don't know whether you are downloading what I'm saying. You enter a cinema theater, you don't know whether you are downloading a cinema or whatever. And actually, they failed. So you will find the case studies being described in our book. The Assured Enterprise of the Year award has also gone, because we talk about startups. It went to Bombay Management Association has created this award. You can see me giving it to Zerodha, 2023 winner, and you can see how that matrix is being used to actually map. This is the Assured evaluation summary. In fact, many startups now are wearing T-shirts saying that, are you sure you are assured? Because the fact that you are assured one day does not mean you are assured the following day. And you do the mapping. I'm mentioning this because I saw your wonderful incubator. I saw your wonderful startups start using such a matrix. In fact, education, research, and innovation is going to be the key for any world-class institution. And so will it be for this institution. And you are already moving up very, very rapidly, as I could see. And I think a framework like this, which you introduce, will go miles, so as to say, in taking it forward. And actually, this is mapping by innovation ecosystem. You can see it is being used even in Australia, in Monash University. The venture centers are using it. Tata Consultancy Services is using this. Startups, accelerators, some of the ministries have started using it. I will send more details about the Assured framework and try to see how this can be incorporated, including in your business management courses and so on and so forth, etc. That's very important. So it is not just important to think exponentially, but the execution and to remain assured, to remain sustainable becomes equally important. Now, the question is that of building leadership. How do you create pole vaulting exponential leaders going beyond the realms of possibilities? Now, great pole vaulting is propelled by high kinetic energy. You know how pole vaulting takes place. You start statically and then you start running and accelerate. Now, what happens while you are accelerating? Supposing there is a speed break, what happens? You lose speed, you have to go back, start again. So, there are speed breakers. What are those? The speed breakers, due to risk aver mindset, for example, any new idea, what happened? Yeah. Any new idea that comes, first response is too risky. The second is, suppose it fails. We are always afraid of failure. The third is, what happened? There is some challenge. I said, suppose it fails, and technology failed. Just to prove. Yeah. Is that okay? Can I go forward? Is that okay? Yeah. So the other thing is impossible, never done before. What do you mean by never done before? Have I given this type of lecture 10 years ago, 20 years ago? The other one is somebody has tried it already. And the next one is, if you have good English, I like to play a devil's advocate. That means I'm scared, I want to share my fear with you. I think the most important part is, may I suggest to you that whenever you are discussing breakthrough ideas, put a board outside the boardroom that anybody who says any of these will go out of the boardroom. It's extremely important because you require that mindset. What are the common speed breakers reducing the kinetic energy? First is complacency. Arey, we are making money. Kya hai? You know the famous Kodak and Polaroid story, no? And the digital sort of camera. Kodak had come out with the sort of breakthrough, but they were making money and said no, and then they are wiped out. Cynicism. Anything that we see, there is some cynicism. Risk aversion. Vested interest, of course, which can be internally as well as outside, because not invented syndrome is always a challenge. Bureaucracy is the worst, actually, and I don't have to tell you about this. And of course, restrictive regulations can actually stop you. So therefore, in order to create exponential results and exponential innovators, you also require a system, ecosystem where this is taken care of. Just to give you imitation, the Microsoft CEO, Steve Ballmer, he was a great fellow, by the way. I was on the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board and I interacted with him. Great fellow. But what did he say when iPhone came? He said, $500, fully subsidized, with a plan. I said that this is the most expensive phone in the world. It doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine. Each one of you are clicking from your iPhones at the moment, proving him completely wrong. All right? So this is what I mean by cynicism. How do you sort of look at it differently? I think the other thing of key characteristics are that first is such exponential leaders, entrepreneurs, find opportunities where others see nothing. Second, they convert problems into an opportunity. Third, they set quantum goals, not 10%, 10x. Next, they drive discontinuity. And finally, bet on risky ideas. Now you would say, you're talking about all this, did you do any of it in your life? Yes, I did. And that is something special about pole vaulting. They do not know that it cannot be done. And they see what everyone else sees, but think of what nobody else thinks. These are the characteristics. So when we build innovation leadership, it is extremely important that we build leadership in terms of such exponential thinkers. All right, that is very critical. Now, what are the key drivers? Talent, technology, and most importantly, trust. Okay? Now, I remember, as I said, the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board, I remember having a dinner come discussion with Bill Gates, and he said something interesting to us. He said he was giving the commencement lecture of Harvard University, and he declared himself to be the most successful dropout from Harvard, which he was. But then he said something that he was just barely 18, 19, and he formed up a company which was going to manufacture computer hardware in Albuquerque. And he said, "You are doing hardware, you will require software, I will give it to you." And he told us he half thought that they will keep the phone down. You know, early days of computers, and somebody offering, young fellow offering, they said, wait for a month, we are not ready. And then Bill Gates told us that thank God they said wait for a month, because I did not have the software that I was offering. Now here is a trust. The trust was from those guys, that company saying that Bill Gates will deliver it, and trust and self-confidence in this fellow. So when we talk about the new startup world, I think this is very, very important. Trust is a key. I have done experiments in betting on risky ideas. First in public, when I was the director of National Chemical Laboratory, I created what is called as a kite flying fund. Chance of success of an idea, 1 in 100. All right. But if it succeeds, it will be a breakthrough. And some breakthroughs came, actually. Ashutosh, there was a paper in Science, by the way, by V.R. Chowdhury on a breakthrough idea. Because I was betting on failure. I was rewarding failure, the ability to think in a risky way. Then I came to CSIR and I created New Idea Fund. I didn't want to call it Kite Flying Fund because the parliament was just 1 kilometer away. And they would say public funds are being used for kite flying. You know, parliament question. I didn't want that. So we called it New Idea Fund, and there were breakthrough. There were 2 US patents on spin computers in early days. Can you just imagine? Of course, we did not have the ecosystem to take them forward. That's a different matter. And then I created this public-private partnership of New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative. Leadership was the key word, not follow, but leader. Now, when you are leading, you are bound to fail because it's a new idea, untrusted idea. You are not copying, you are not reverse engineering. And we started funding these. And it showed results, as I will show you. For example, the Indian private sector also caught it up, daring to try. Ratan Tata created it. In fact, it was interesting. He had called me for their senior leadership meeting. And my talk was innovation as a way of life. And I said, a CEO friend of mine had come from US, and he said, we don't hang people who make mistakes, but we do hang people who don't take risks. What do you do in India? I said, we hang people who take risks. And there was a big laughter, but he did not laugh. Ratan did not laugh. And during tea, he asked me, what can we do so that within Tatas we can start taking risks? I said, celebrate those who dared to try and failed. And we created that Daring to Try. This is the most popular program, by the way, where audacious ideas are being supported. And in fact, that gets into the system, I must tell you, because I inaugurated one of their innovation festivals. There were 3 stalls. The first stall was, yes, we did it. That means we had audacious idea, did it. Second was, we are at it. And third was, we tried but. You understand? Once you start projecting that I failed proudly because I tried something hard, the system has arrived, basically. How do we do that? Within the university, how can we do that? You know, that's something that we have to look at. And Dare to Dream, Mahindras have created in a similar way. Beyond Reliance I talked about. So more and more private sector has to actually go for things like this. So this New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative we created in 2000 was India's biggest public-private partnership in technology. When I left in 2006, there were more than 100 private sector companies and 250 institutions working together. And we looked at grand challenges. Risk was the key, and not best practice was next practice. And just to give an example, Indian industry had always worked in that lower quadrant where markets were certain and technology was certain. Markets were certain and technology was certain. Technology was certain because you could copy. We moved into an area where markets were uncertain and technologies were uncertain. Can you just imagine today we talk about hydrogen? We started a program in 2002 on fuel cells when markets were uncertain and technologies were uncertain. And today you can see the result. This is the KPIT. You can see three people here. Dr. Ashish Lele, the director of NCL. You can see Ravi Pandit, KPIT Technologies CEO, and myself. And their fuel cell technology today is not only the state of the art, but ahead of the state of the art. Because for a kilowatt, it is not $1,000 to $1,200, just $400, and 95% components are indigenous. As we speak, the trials are going on at the moment. But that would not have happened had we not taken a risk at a point in time when nobody had sort of bothered about it. That is what we need to actually do. So the mood of the nation is changing, not following, not fast following, not leading, not leapfrogging, but pole vaulting. Our Honorable Prime Minister here has said the time for incremental change is long over. The current age is one that requires transformational change that comes only with drastic policy reforms. And as you can see, lots of these things are happening. There is something very interesting. This book that you had, Leapfrogging to Pole Vaulting, was read by late General Bipin Rawat, and he was interviewed the following day. It's very interesting. You listen to it, is there on the YouTube. You first listen to his first 5 minutes, where he said, time has come to move from leapfrogging to pole vaulting for a nation. And the question is, are we doing it? Yes. How did India pole vault towards fastest LED penetration, 0.2% in 88% in 7 years? That's a world record, by the way. And this ESL became the biggest catalyst for the LED revolution. And they have brought India on the global solid-state lighting map. The technology got adopted in 6 months, while it should have taken 5 years. And as a result of the ESL program, the LED bulb is now cheaper than bread. And I remember Piyush Goyal, because I chaired the Earth Care Awards, he was chairing, he was the chief guest and saying that we'll do demand aggregation. So 9-watt bulb from $7 came to $1. And then, of course, system delivery and the rest of it. India has done it by that thinking. Technology was not ours. Policy was ours. And that made a change. Or you see now, we are pole vaulting to highest real-time digital payments ahead of US, China, and everybody sort of based together. We have done. Look at startups, for example. India produced more unicorn startups in 2021 than all previous years put together. And here is the good news. Until 2016-17, we had one unicorn per year. One unicorn, as you all know, is $1 billion market cap. In 2021, we almost had one unicorn per week. Almost. As a scientist, I must be precise, there were 44, not 52, but almost. And that is because of the digital transformation that we have had. All right? That's what one means, not leapfrogging, but pole vaulting. And I remember I happened to be the chairman of the New Energy Council, where we have some of the best, like Mr. Solar. You see here Martin Green, who has 90% of the solar photovoltaic has its PERC technology, passive emitter rear cell technology, people like that. And we have some very, very audacious plans. And one of the audacious plans that came out in my talk with him in Asia Economic Dialogue is 111, producing 1 kilogram of green hydrogen for $1 within 1 decade for 1 billion people. It's almost like geoification, as you can quite clearly see. That is exponential leadership. That is exponential entrepreneurship. And that's what we actually need. Let me just end by a bit of an advertisement. My book, Experiment, is being launched on 24th of April, as you can see. I have written this book. My co-author is half of my age, by the way. You can see Harsh there. So we brought different things to the table, and this is getting launched. The important part about that, again, an exponential, not incremental. How do you bring exponential improvement? By merging the parallels. That means taking sort of ideas from a completely unrelated sector. Like, for example, Ford, he was inspired by the sort of looking at slaughterhouse and how assembly line works there, and he used that. Slaughterhouse has nothing to do with car manufacturing, but he brought it together and how that can happen. And you talked about interdisciplinarity today in the board, and very right, actually, converging the disciplines, etc. That is going to be very important. I would end by, when I got the JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award, I had ended my lecture by saying that finally 1999 should be the year where we should launch a powerful national innovation movement to propel us into the next millennium. The I in India should not stand for imitation and inhibition. It must stand for innovation. The I in IIT must stand for innovation. The I in industry, the I in CSR, the I in every individual must stand for innovation. And I'd ended by saying it is only this innovative India that will signal to the rest of the world that we are not a hesitant nation, unsure of our place in new global order, but a confident one that is raring to go and be a leader in the community of nations. So that is our dream, building an Atmanirbhar Bharat with Atmavishwas and with exponential led accelerated growth. I'd like to end the lecture now. I just celebrated my 80 years, 1st January. I'm now 81. So there is a lot that I have learned in my 80 years, sometimes by succeeding, many times by failing. So I will just share 5 lessons from that, particularly for the young audience. The very first is aspirations are your possibilities. Target next practice, not best practice. And I have explained to you what it actually means. And I'm very happy to see that our young people have that. I was addressing a young gathering on the other day, and I'm very proud of our education system. I'm myself a product of that education system. So I said, look at Satya Nadella. He has become the CEO of Microsoft. Look at Sundar Pichai. He has become the CEO of Google. And you can be also like that. And one young fellow got up. He said, sir, you got it all wrong. So I said, I said something nice. He said, no, sir, in your time, your only aspiration was to go to US somehow. The next generation, not only to go to US, but get a job in a good company like Microsoft. The following generation, not only go to US, get a job in Microsoft, but become CEO. Not our generation. We want to create our own Microsoft, our own Google here in India. That is aspiration. And that is our power. That is our power. The second part is purpose, perseverance, and passion. Too early to quit. Winners are never quitters. Quitters are never winners. Please understand that. So patience is something that is lacking in our young people today. All right? I think that is what. And you have to have a big purpose. जिसको हम ध्रुव तारा कहते हैं ना, नॉर्थ स्टार, वैसे होना चाहिए. Not just for yourself, but for the society and for the nation. And I always say fail, particularly for young people. Fail is first attempt in learning. First attempt in learning. Your best guru is your last mistake, as long as you learn from it. All right? So keep on doing that. The third one is when doors of opportunity that you keep on knocking don't open, create new doors. I remember I came back in 1976, and particularly for young people, it is very important to listen. A new telephone took 6 years, by the way. And when we got one, we did puja and a party. Today, everybody has a sort of a mobile. You will remember, journals came by C-mail, took 3 years, 3 months. That means we were out of contention right from beginning. All right? And so on and so forth, under those conditions. And I remember I wanted an equipment called rheogoniometer, because I wanted to pursue my work on rheology and non-Newtonian fluid mechanics when I was trained. You know how much time it would take? 2 years. Because DGTD clearance, not manufactured in India certificate. So that door was not opening. I created my own doors. I said, what is the equipment God has given me? This. How can I use it? I went into mathematical modeling and simulation. which doesn't require any equipment. You know, I started the work in 1977. Within 5 years, and it takes 5 years, here is another Bhatnagar Award, which is the highest science award, by the way, for scientists below 45 years. I got that in 1982. Now, had I waited for that door to open, I would be still waiting. I created my own doors. That is the single. The next is parachute works only when it is open. Mind is also like that. Open mind will create abundance of ideas. Some of them will be breakthroughs. That's very, very important for young people to understand. And finally, no limit to human endurance, achievement, imagination, excepting the ones that you put on yourself. Now, I'll explain that to you. I became Fellow of Royal Society, as I was mentioning in some meeting, that is the highest honor after Nobel Prize for an engineering scientist. Okay? And there are only 3 engineering scientists who 360 years have become fellows. One is my guru, Professor Sharma. Another is Professor Rodam Narasimha, who is no more. And third is speaking to you. Okay? Myself. Now, it is a great honor, so I called Professor C.N.R. Rao, my guru, and said, sir, I have become FRS. I thought he will jump with joy. You know what he said? Not bad. Then I got some other honors, you know, like American Academy of Arts and Science. There I was 7th, by the way. There also he said, not bad. Then I saw 3rd and 7th doesn't work for him. So I became, from India, I was the first one to become National Academy of Inventors Fellow, US National Academy. So I said, now at least he will. Didn't. He said, not bad. Then I got upset and I said, sir, what do I have to do to please you? The lesson that he gave me, I'm giving to the young students. What he said was that you are climbing on a ladder of excellence, which doesn't have limits, accepting the limit that you put on your mind. What does that mean? No matter what you achieve, you have to say, my best is yet to come. And when should you do it? You are 18, yes, get up in the morning and say, my best is yet to come. And today is the day it will come. When you are 28, do it. 38, do it. 88, till the last day of your life, you have to say that my best is yet to come. And today is the day it will come. And that is not just for yourself, for the society, for the nation. And if you can just imagine, 1 billion Indians get up in the morning and say, my best is yet to come, and today is the day it is going to come. Where will India be in the Committee of Nations? Right up here. Thank you very much.